Hello, everyone, and welcome to Here Be Dragons. I am your host, Stephen Stark. Back this week, we got Nessie and John in the house at the same time. It's nice to have, like, the OG3 dragons back and joining us. Longtime friend of the channel now. I think the first thing we ever did together was the Coco Dia de los Muertos video
Mm-hmm.
2 years ago on Dia de Muertos.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then yeah, we've talked Expanse and all that stuff. But Cecilia, you're back because, well, I don't know that you begged me, but you're like, can I come? And I'm like, yes. Apparently, you have some stuff to say about the show. For the record, we're talking about the new Disney Plus Star Wars series, Andor. Not a show about computer logic gates, which is what I assumed originally, but I'm glad to be wrong. Thank you for indulging my stupid joke.
Yeah, dad
Um,
jokes.
Well, I hadn't heard it before, Stephen. So
yeah,
it's nice to make sure you get it in there.
yeah, yeah. And now you've all heard it too, so we've all suffered together. Um, but yeah, as per usual, we usually I kind of do the top-down view first, and then we'll dig into specific characters or arcs or moments or whatever. But not only ladies first, but guests always first as well. So Cecilia,
Tell me.
top-down view. What did you think of Andor?
I think it's by far the best show that Star Wars has ever made. And it's quite possibly my favorite material from Star Wars. I'm sorry. I know that that is controversial,
That is very controversial,
but I have my reasons.
right? So basically, all of the high praise put it on a pedestal among Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Mm-hmm.
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 Okay, I don't know if my ears can handle any more of that blasphemy. No, I'm kidding, obviously.
Oh
But
yeah.
yeah, Nessie, what about you? What's your sort of overall sentiment?
I have to agree with Cecilia. I'm on team best Star Wars.
Mm-hmm,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
yeah. Burn me as a witch, Steven. I don't care.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I love this. I love the characters. I love the story writing. I love the. I loved everything. I loved it
Right.
all. One delicious package. And I'm not talking about the character.
We'll get to that.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to thirst, this show has you covered. I'm just saying. If you want to thirst, you will find someone. John, how about you, buddy?
I think if I was speaking objectively, I would definitely agree. I think it's on a sort of basis of across the board quality of the acting, direction, script writing, all of that stuff. There's a pretty solid case to make that this is the best Star Wars ever.
Mm-hmm.
That's that. No, what I haven't stopped yet. But that said, I sympathize with Steven because nostalgia is a powerful thing with Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
And so those original movies still pull a special chord with me. And also, I said when we watched Clone Wars Season 7 and we got to the Siege of Mandalore, I said that was the best Star Wars since Empire Strikes Back. And I still hold to that. But that said, this was absolutely incredible. It's by far the best of the live action Star Wars shows. And I've been really conflicted about this, but it may be my favorite thing all year.
Mm-hmm.
Period, out of any show.
Ooh.
And that's been I fluctuate back and forth on that because there were a few things that I really loved this year.
There's only one thing, and I'll mention it. And I
But
would like to hear: is there something with as high a praise as you've given it, Cecilia and Nessie? Is there something that came out, say, within the last year that you might put above it? John, I'm sorry, finish your thought, but I want our lady friends to be.
No, that's fine.
Oh my goodness. It had a lot of competition, to be honest, because I mean, there was House of the Dragon. There was the Rings of Power. There was the last season of The Expanse. And
Sandman.
and oh my god, I really can't say, but given what I saw and what it made me feel, I say it's my favorite show of the year
Okay.
too. Yeah,
Yeah.
Nessie?
but it is
Well,
really it's a really tight competition, but
Right.
it is, but it is indeed.
I'll just say this. Since it was weekly episodic, just like Rings of Power and House of the Dragon, I didn't rush to watch either of those shows at the day that it dropped. Even if I had the opportunity to watch it that day, I didn't. If I could watch Andor, I did.
Mhm.
So that's telling for me.
It is.
It's how I balance my television watching, my limited television watching time.
Right. So you think it's probably the best thing you've seen all year too?
I'm gonna say
Okay.
that.
So I'm gonna be the wet blanket. You ready?
Go ahead.
Like best Star Wars ever, best Star Wars ever, best Star Wars ever. I'm like, yeah, but Empire Strikes Back. Best Star Wars since 1980. You know what? I think I'm fully on board that train. I think I am. And yes, I have nostalgia goggles. And yes, like
It's okay.
this year has been really tough for Star Wars in general for me. I'm experiencing Star Wars fatigue just the tiniest little bit with all the Star Wars that's come out recently. Andor flipped me back to being like, I can't wait. I wake up Wednesday morning. I watch it as soon as I can.
Mhm.
I'm totally there, or Thursday morning or whatever day it was. But like I might even admit that it's a better piece of media than Empire Strikes Back, but I don't think I like it more. But that's also 42 years of carrying that around as my gold standard. You know what I mean? Even though
Yeah.
this year I've seen a movie that I think might be better than The Empire Strikes Back. And actually, I think there's a show that I saw this year that I like better than Andor, which was Arcane. If you haven't seen Arcane, go watch Arcane.
I haven't watched it. So
Well, and here's the thing, like, it's been decades since Empire Strikes Back,
Mhm.
and the landscape for science fiction, in like cinema and television has changed. Um, Back then, like, Lucas was breaking new ground with
Mhm.
the Star Wars films, and you wouldn't have seen, like, it was very rare that science fiction was allowed to be treated with the seriousness that Andor brings. I mean, you had like 2001: Space Odyssey before Star Wars, but that kind of thing was rare. And so I feel like that comes with the changing time, that people would that they do take science fiction seriously. We have shows like The Expanse,
Mhm.
yeah.
which is something you couldn't have imagined, years and years ago. So I think a lot of it comes with the changing time. I will say there's been a lot of talk, quote unquote discourse about what people want from Star Wars, and for me, I agree with the point of view that Star Wars should have a very diverse palette of the kinds of storytelling. But this was refreshing to me, and as someone who has loved Star Wars since he was a little kid, I do want to see at least some Star Wars that kind of shows that the franchise has grown up with me, because we often say Star Wars is for the kid in all of us, which I agree with. I love that kind of Star Wars, but I also want to see this as well.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's a Star Wars for the adults.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be either or, really.
Yeah.
Because
And
I mean, I personally like Andor more because I am more into the seriousness of of sci-fi, right?
Hmm.
And the original Star Wars is not really sci-fi;
No,
it's
it's
just space
fantasy. I've had this
fantasy.
debate
Yeah.
so many times. It is
Yeah,
fantasy.
it's
You
it's
fuck
space
me.
fantasy, and I love fantasy. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love Luke Skywalker. I love the Force. I love this the swords, the lasers. I mean, I love everything about Star Wars the way we saw it before. But this Star Wars feels different. This Star Wars feels like I don't know. Hola, Hecha. This is
Mhm.
but yeah, it doesn't really have to be something separate, but I mean, there's a lot more in the galaxy than just the Skywalkers and Jedi's. And this time we got to see the real people, the real people of the Empire, the real people that was suffering because of the Empire, and that was just
But
Yeah,
amazing.
we
Hmm.
the
never
show was
heard
so grounded.
we
Hmm.
never heard the word Jedi or Force or lightsaber. 12 episodes, we had
Hmm.
none of that.
None.
They really did strip away a lot of the classically fantasy elements, and really, this is the most sci-fi I think Star Wars has actually ever been,
Hmm.
because it is reflecting the world we live in today through the lens of an imagined sort of advanced society.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's funny because I was trying to figure out how to classify this show. It's more subtle than Star Wars usually is in its filmmaking, but but not subtle at all in its messaging, which is good. I like the fact that it's tackling, uh, our real world issues. You can't turn away from that watching this
Hmm.
show. If you're watching this and like there are certain things you can say, well, I'm just looking to be entertained. Like if you're watching this, I feel like you can't look away from the parallels drawn
Hmm.
between what they're showing and our real world. um, and that was just really great to see. And you mentioned the Empire, and yeah, we've never seen the Empire like this. And while we hear, yeah, about the Emperor, we'd never see him.
Hmm.
Vader is never mentioned. This is the horrifying nightmare of the Empire as a fascist
Right.
regime,
This
Hmm.
is the
and it
machine.
is terrifying.
This is
Hmm.
the imperial machine at work,
Like,
grinding
Yes.
down everything beneath it.
Yeah, like
Feel
for
the
example,
weight.
in our Slack group in the channel, I mentioned that we have had a lot of great villains in every Star Wars presentation. Okay, but the Empire was just there in the background,
Mhm.
enabling the evil guy, to be evil.
Yeah.
But we never got to see, the machine behind the Empire. And this time we see people in their low ranks trying to get
Mhm.
a higher position, people trying just to impress someone, and other people being corrupt, other people being manipulated, and other people being just double agents. And that I know this may sound controversial, but all my Latino friends relate to this
mm,
because we have been there. I mean, for example, Andor's imprisoning for doing literally nothing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's something that happens here a lot to a lot of people. That is just injustice that we see in an everyday basis. And some other, well, for example, in Mexico, we didn't have a dictatorship until 1910, but after modern dictatorships, well, we have Venezuela, we have Cuba, and we had Bolivia, and Chile and Argentina had also suffered from recent dictatorships, and this feels like really, really painfully close to us.
Mhm.
And the fact that the lead character in this story is Andor, Mexican guy. I mean,
mm.
a Mexican actor. It connects a lot with us, and we have been suffering from that kind of injustice all of our lives. We don't believe in a system. We don't believe in authority. We don't trust the authorities. We don't trust the police. We don't trust the army. We don't trust them for anything. We fear them.
Right.
And that's what the empire is in this universe. So it feels painfully close.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why I'm a little biased towards Andor, but yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I really appreciated that too. I mean, I'm a white guy, a white American. My experience is what it is. But I also am not somebody who lives with my head in the sand, and I'm aware of a lot of the injustices that go on in the world. And I also am a huge believer in representation and think that, and the cast was very diverse in general as well. I'm glad that not every white guy was a bad guy, but like there were plenty of white guy bad guys in this show too. Morally gray white guys. But like giving a really talented actor a platform to do something so unique on the scale that Star Wars lets you do it. It's a shame more people aren't watching this show because it's one of the least watched Star Wars shows. I think people hit Star Wars fatigue off of the back of the last Star Wars show, Boba Fett, was it, And that's unfortunate because Andor is doing some really fantastic layered storytelling. Not just, and it's not just, I mean, yes, Diego Luna's title character is sort of the through line that connects everything, but, and eventually we'll talk about them, but like, there are a couple of really interesting couples in the show. Maybe my favorite television show couple of all time.
Oh, those two.
Like,
it's so awful, but it's so great
bad.
to watch.
Like,
Exactly.
so hard. But I'm like,
it's like jumping to the end. I was so terrified Cyril was going to go in for a kiss, and I'm like, no.
The Beth was, after he saves her life, I suppose I should thank you. And she's like, and he's like, you don't have to. I'm just like,
she's like, great. I didn't want to really.
Just the worst. Like,
creepy.
I so
creepy
hard,
as
y'all.
Yeah.
I do.
Oh yeah.
But like as downright creepy and horrible as Cyril is, like hats off to Kyle Solar. He is just freaking phenomenal, and the same with Denise Goff, as Dedra. I first saw her in the film Colette a couple of years ago, which check out the stream on my channel. But like this was, she killed it. And like there's so many actors in this show that just knocked it out of the park. Like even the quote unquote bit players just brought their A game. It was so great.
Yeah, she is wound up tighter than a drum. I mean, she's just, I mean, just with a little tweaking, this could be an Imperial rom-com, but it didn't go that route.
But see, before that, I want to see the buddy comedy with Sergeant Mosk. The Scottish speaking, cohort.
I
want the two.
I mean, I was almost hearing the
bad buddy cop movie.
I almost heard the choir of the song by the Cranberries. I know you're such. Noah's such a fool for you, and I don't remember the name of the song.
Like in a finale that was just so dark and relentless, but also inspiring. But it was very like serious and enthralling. There's just that scene of the two of them on the transport switching hats.
I know.
And I was dying.
It's like Are we friends now? I don't know. Are we friends now?
It's like,
Do we-
and why are you switching hats?
No.
Are you trying? What are you trying to disguise there?
I didn't even get that. I'm like, I don't even know why they're doing this, but it's
Yeah. The more I think about it, the more I'm like, what was that? Other than just to be like, oh, it's both of them and they're in it together.
Yeah.
like maybe this fits you better. I don't know.
The riot scene was actually pretty freaking brutal
Mhm.
Yeah.
God.
because it really does end up being a massacre of civilians.
Yes.
And that was one of the things that I wanted to mention. Like, I know, like, everybody
Right.
likes to joke about the stormtroopers, and even the creators of, like, The Mandalorian have gotten in on the joke and stuff. But I liked that they went the other direction with this, where we hear in Star Wars, in the first Star Wars, that, you know, only Imperial stormtroopers are this precise, and we actually see that in this, where they're mowing down people
Mhm.
in the riot. So,
Mhm.
so I was glad to see that, because it shows that, you know, the writers, you know, and the showrunner are taking this is like serious Star Wars. We're not cracking jokes about the stormtroopers.
Mhm.
Yeah, it felt very dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like
Like,
there was a scene where the guy's banging on the anvil at the top,
oh,
and
that's like the best. That
stormtrooper comes up and he kicks him out of the
tower.
and I was like, that was so great. And they did not Wilhelm scream, and I'm like,
Yeah.
actually kind of love that they didn't, because that's where they would have put it, and like that would have taken me out of the moment actually, because it's too.
Yeah.
But they
Yeah.
didn't, and I appreciate that.
Mhm. There were
Like-
so many great episodes. I mean, the whole thing that they did about closing small arcs
Yeah.
in every 3
Mhm.
episodes was really great. And then in the final episodes, you join the final episode with certain elements of the other of the other climax episodes. And for example, the whole thing with the manifesto,
Yeah.
it was great, because maybe if you are a little uh, distracted spectator, you don't remember that there was a manifest, maybe. But then when they mention it, and then when you tie it with Andor's evolution as a character, from being just
Mhm.
an outcast uh, guy that just goes around the galaxy doing, I don't know, questionable
He's got his
deeds.
own. Yeah, he's
Yeah,
got his
yeah.
own plan.
And then slowly you see him slowly evolving into this rebel, and that it will be crucial for the wars to come. And yeah, I mean, those type of details were really, really awesome for me.
And I liked, you know, talking about the arcs. I think a lesser show would have had Andor, like, decide to join up after the Aldani arc, but
No,
to show that at that point, no, he hasn't bought in there. It's going to take him, like,
Yeah.
personally, you know, suffering under the boot
Mhm.
of the Empire, and as something that, like, of which he had a hand in, you know, the Empire pressing down because of something he was involved in, and
Mhm.
and then to go through that and to see that he actually inspires other people. I love the part where oh god, we haven't even mentioned Andy Serkis yet, but when
Oh, I was literally about to go there.
when Pino is saying his words back to him, you know, giving the speech over the intercom, like, you can just see that hitting Andor, you know, the gravity of that, and oh my god, Andy Serkis was so amazing.
Mhm,
He
mhm.
was.
You know, but before we get into Andy Serkis, I need to talk about Diego,
Okay,
because
please go ahead.
yeah, I mean, there are really, really spectacular acting in this actors in this show, and they do a wonderful job each, and particularly Serkis and particularly Skarsgård. But it's easy to say that Diego didn't shine as much, but his character required him to be subtle.
Yeah.
And yeah, and that's one of the things that I really really liked about Andor as a character. And it's the fact that even though he wasn't doing apparently much, because he didn't have a lot of dialogue, he didn't have a lot of um despite being the main character, but his facial expressions and all of the things that you can see that are going through his mind, even though he's not saying any words, is just great acting.
I agree totally.
Hmm.
Kartik agrees with you as well. Brilliantly restrained is
Yeah.
Kartik's word. I thought it was, it's a subdued delivery of a character, but I thought it was perfect. By the way, Cecilia, you may not realize your video is not coming through anymore.
Um,
I do
Okay.
realize, but I don't know why
It's fine.
my
It'd be like that sometimes.
Yeah, it's
about,
you just
restraint.
watch him through that first episode of the prison arc, and just like the mixture of terror and like almost being frozen, but also trying to take in as much as he can, because he knows that's going to be crucial if he's ever going to get out of there. But it's all going on in his eyes, and you can see it. Diego Luna was absolutely brilliant in this. And I admit, like back in Rogue One, I wasn't the biggest fan of Cassian, and I wasn't necessarily sure what I thought of Diego's performance. I thought he was good, but I don't know that I fully understood Cassian as a character at the time, which is why I was so looking forward to the show, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And like from the first moments, he just gripped me, and like he has just been so phenomenal, and I've been so engrossed by his character arc and just watching the subtleties of his performance. And yeah, I mean, I think he probably has the hardest job of the entire show, because he is like he's the through line, and we get to see a lot of great characters like bouncing off of him, and they get like the moments to shine, the Oscar clips, if you will, but he has to a lot of times just do that nonverbal acting, and he's so great.
He's got to do it with a side-eye glance and a grunt.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's not easy. That's not easy to do.
Yeah.
All props to Diego. I'm not familiar with much of his work outside of Star Wars, but like, the thing is, he is the through line. It's his name on the door. Like he's number one on the call sheet, so to speak. He has to carry it. If we can't believe Cassian, none of the rest of the show works. And taking a character that worked in the context of Rogue One and trying to find the ground, the lead up to that character, which is what this is meant to be, I think that's a really tricky line to walk. But I also think that maybe the best decision they made in the whole process of making this show was getting Tony Gilroy, who doesn't really care about Star Wars at all, just wants to make his good show. He comes in, he's got the Lucasfilm story group to make sure he doesn't color outside the lines, so to speak, but he's still bringing his own freaking crayons. He's not a guy playing with action figures in his sandbox the way sometimes the Mandalorian or Boba Fett would feel like to me, which is fine. That's fine. That's what they were doing. And another point I wanted to make is somebody, I think it was John, said that Star Wars has a wide palette.
Yeah.
But that means you can make a show for 6-year-olds and a show for 13-year-olds and a show for 35-year-olds.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad that we finally got the show that was like, hey, for all you people who really actually love the politics and love digging into the deep philosophical questions that are raised by the sort of interaction between Empire and Rebellion, because let's face it, rebels can do some terrible things. It examines the ideas of extremism, what's too far, how do people become radicalized, what do they give up to do that. It's brilliant in that way, and also because, let's face it, in the modern world, if you live maybe on Earth, there might be somewhere on Earth where you don't look at the Empire and see your own government, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
If you do, you're probably some kind of radical nationalist, but I definitely see America in the Empire, of course. So yeah, it's just so relatable in a way that, like, the Empire used to be standing for Nazi Germany, but they're not anymore.
Mm-hmm.
In this iteration, it really is a stand-in for the man. Sorry, that's all right. In thought, in rant. Somebody else say something interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
Another really, really understated. They played everything so close to the vest, tight, and everything. I want to give a shout out to Genevieve O'Reilly and Mon Mothma,
Mm-hmm.
because she just came as the understated, just quiet, low key, but like a backbone of steel. You know,
Mm-hmm.
she's playing like the tightest game ever. She is there in the heart of power, standing up, leading a rebellion. you know, she's putting everything on the line too, right under the nose of the empire, it, on Coruscant. You know, she knows they are watching everything she does,
Mm-hmm.
and yet she continues to do it.
the scene between when she's enlisting Tay is one of my favorites of the whole show. Just the way he gets more and more nervous the longer she's talking, and then the way she caps off the conversation with "smile." It's just it's so great. Yeah, and I can't wait to see like how she evolves next year, because she's not yet the leader. At this point.
We don't see that
She's the
till
money.
Rebels,
She's
right?
she's bankrolling it and trying desperately not to get caught. But that's what I think was so great about seeing her this year. We're seeing the very personal side of her and the way she relates to her awful family.
Side note, I was overjoyed when she started throwing her husband under the bus for
Oh, yeah.
gambling. I was just like,
Oh my God,
yes,
yes.
queen.
When
Perfect resolution. To
I
that.
wasn't like totally grasping their dynamic during their first conversation, but when he finished off with does everything have to be so sad and boring? I was like, oh, screw this guy.
Oh, I know you.
Yeah.
Is your name Chad?
Yeah, the awful person, but again, like we hate him so much because the actor is so good. Like,
Mm-hmm.
just a great performance. And I want to cut the daughter a little slack because she's younger, but at the same time, I was just like, oh God, listen to your mother.
Yeah, but
Yeah, she
she's
reminded
her
me.
mother, who is just so like eye roll, like she's 13, she's rolling her eyes at everything her parents do.
Uh-huh.
It's like, so her like embracing this conformity, like what their traditional values or whatever for the their home world, and It's like, and you're like, you're living in your parents' house and you're seeing their awful marriage. They married when they were 13, I think thank you, Kitty. Maybe
16.
15, 16. Yeah, they were
Mhm.
teenagers. Just like,
I think they said 13, 14, actually.
Yeah.
She was 13 and he was 14, but still very young.
just signed her daughter up to like go through the same. I mean, like her daughter might be happy about it because, oh, this is tradition. This is what we do. Let me go and meet this new person.
She'll find out.
Yeah, but I mean, that's a level of sacrifice. That's.
It was hard
putting something out there. That's.
Yeah.
It was just heartbreaking when she's talking to Vel and saying, after she explained the situation, she's like,
I am in trouble.
I'm in trouble. And then she says, I found a solution or a way out or something to that effect. And you're like, oh no, she's
not doing that.
And yeah, just such a beautiful but heartbreaking performance, and
she's compromising her own moral compass for the betterment and the good of everyone else. And
I just saw Guilty mentioned Davos Skulden, a horrible name, and he is
Davos.
Yeah, I know. Well, funny enough,
how dare you?
Because he's played by Richard Delane, who is Stephen Delane's brother. So
what? He's Uncle Davos. And that's the that's
because
the
and he does something about him did the way he spoke screamed Stannis to me, so I was not surprised when I saw that he was related. Yeah, can I just say, holy crap, I was shocked that Vel was
Vel Mothma.
We knew her as the waif, and in Game of Thrones, and she looked so, but then she changed appearances radically within this show too.
Like, I did not recognize her. As soon as somebody said the waif, I was like, duh, but I did not notice myself.
Yeah.
And real, she's much older. She's playing a very different part too.
Yeah.
Honestly. I mean, they're both dangerous people, obviously, but I really enjoyed that they humanized her after the fact too, and it's hard, and her relationship with what is her lady friend's name?
Cinta.
Yeah.
I do not want to be on her bad side.
No, I'm not sure I want to be on her good side.
She is committed. She is 100% down for the
Vel, because look, Vel is committed too, but Cinta is committed to the extent that she can't see anything else anymore.
No.
Well, and we learned that stormtroopers killed her family.
Yeah, I mean, this is where you see the privilege. I mean, Vel is a rich girl playing rebel. Okay, and she may be committed to it, but not in a way that she has personally experienced the pain of the Empire. Yeah, and for Cinta, it's another reality completely. I mean, her whole family was slaughtered by the Empire, and she doesn't really come from a highborn place. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
if Vel gets tired of playing rebel, she can always go back home and live a great life.
Yeah, but I think
doesn't have anything. Well, doesn't have anything to lose anymore. And
but I feel bad for Cinta too, because she's lost that part of her humanity that still cares about that.
Yeah, I was going to say there's there's a middle ground in there that's probably best, because Cinta gets to the point where she is almost bloodthirsty to get Cassian, this person who
Help
fought
them.
with them, and but because he knows things and he's out on the loose, he's got to go, and I'm going to go all in on on taking this guy out. It's just I think I agree with Stephen that I think she's lost something along the way, and you can perfectly see why. Which is why the character is so interesting and gripping to watch. So.
Yeah. Okay, so can we talk about Andy Serkis now?
Yeah.
Good,
course.
because he was good.
Yeah.
This is the best non-CG character Andy Serkis has.
As soon as I heard his voice before you would see his face, I was like, oh my God, that's Andy Serkis.
Right.
And I was so excited. And just because, obviously I adore all his motion capture performances, especially Gollum, but he's had a number of live action roles as well, and it's always a treat to see him, but he really got to sink his teeth in to this one. And
that probably best short arc, I think, in the series. Like, we have the Andor's overarching, but of the short arcs, beginning to end, I think his was probably the best. From beginning to end, and such a microcosm for everything that Andor is going to be doing.
Well, I don't think he had the best speech in the series. I think that goes to Luthen. But he might just watching him process and the internal struggle you can tell is going on inside Kino. Throughout just the 3 episodes he's in the show.
3 episodes.
And to watch him believably change over that course, and to watch Andy Serkis deliver the internal struggle again with just his face, the way that Cassian had been doing too much of the show, or that Diego had been doing for his character. I don't know that it's hyperbolic to say he should be nominated for an Emmy.
So good.
Yeah.
When his final lines, the one episode, never more than 12. I was like, I had shivers just go up my arm, because it was just, you just knew at that point that he was he had 180 at that point. Never more than 12. Never more than 12.
Yeah, and I kind of really liked that the last episode of that arc. I don't think it opens with them, but you see Kino before you see Cassian. It kind of starts on a close-up on his face, and so you almost feel like this episode we're kind of like going along with him on this journey, and it was just. And then once you watch it again and you realize that the whole way through he knows he's not going to make it, it's heartbreaking to watch him go through all that. And when he's back in, his cell and they're all talking amongst themselves and he's just got his back to them and you can see on his face, he's just, the motors are, turning, and finally he's like, there's no other choice. And then when he just screams,
out.
He's like, no one is getting out. It's like, God.
One way out, John. One way out.
One way out.
And he starts, and maybe his next line is, I'm going to assume I'm already dead. Yeah. So the fact that he
just processed.
If I was him, I would just jump and be okay with drowning, because guess what? They didn't get me. I got myself. At least I had a choice.
Yeah. And we don't know that he didn't, but that last scene between the two of them, their parting words. Like he did everything knowing that he could not live to see the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of reflected, that's Andor's arc. He dies knowing that he's not going to see the
Mhm.
fruits, the end of it.
And he's one in a long list. Like, oh gosh, there's so many characters. I'm not going to be able to remember all of them. But is it Nico? No, Nico is the kid that wrote the manifesto.
Oh yeah.
Uh-huh.
Well, I'll get him up here.
Like he died for the cause. Nemec. There it is.
I was so overjoyed when the manifesto comes back in the last episode and we hear his voice, and
I feel like that manifesto is going to make its way. That might be the little spark, the seed that just goes out, throughout the galaxy. His words.
Yeah, and which, by the way, I had been more like all the prison arc had been more recent, before my rewatch. So like I obviously was still like buzzing off of that. But when I went back and watched the Aldani arc last night, holy crap! Especially the third episode, The Eye, is just that it's still probably the most intense episode of the season.
I was sitting like on the edge of my seat.
Because even knowing how it turned out last night, I was still breathing heavy.
I mean, I was at the edge of my seat the whole time, though, during those 3 episodes, especially during The Eye. And and I one of the things that I liked about this is that they juxtapose religious traditions of people from a certain planet, and while they are showing the fight, and I don't know, it gives a lot of meaning to the whole thing. I mean, the Empire is one of those entities that doesn't really care about cultures of any kind. They just want to rip, and they just want to get the resources, and that's it. And they don't mind going over or stepping over anyone. And I don't know, while the robbery in Aldani was being performed, is when the locals were doing their their
religious
ritual, and then finally we end the episode with the eye, with the proper eye. That was a beautiful visual spectacle. I mean, it was amazing. Everything that happened in that episode was amazing. It was having to fly through those. I don't know. What was it, meteors or what?
I mean, it is a meteor when it's flying through the sky.
Yeah, and I don't know. From the point of view of a character, you're trying to get away from what you did while watching this beautiful scenery that is also extremely dangerous for you. It's amazing. It's amazing. And being chased by TIE fighters.
And just the way everything is accelerating and the tension is rising, and Cassian keeps saying, I can't go up, and then finally it's like, climb! And just it's
as he's dying. And there are so many characters. We're going to need to get to. We're probably going to do a mid-roll here in a minute. But while we're on Nemec still, it feeds into this idea that you hear the words of his manifesto over sort of the violence being perpetrated on Ferrix in the finale, and you've got Marva's speech and all of that, and the kid who makes the bomb, and yes, and we're talking about I got full-on chills when this happened. So, if I may, I love Yoda. Yoda is is an endless font of wisdom and knowledge and truth, with one bad take, and that is do or do not. There is no try.
Mm-hmm.
And just him ending that speech with "try." I'm getting goosebumps right now just thinking about it. Like,
I will just say,
have the courage to stand up and fail.
Just try.
I will just say, and once again, my best takes are always stealing from Force Center, but like Yoda is saying this, applying it to a very specific situation with Luke. His Yoda tries all the time.
All the time.
He tries during the prequels. So yeah,
you know, like it's not as good a blanket statement as so many other Yoda quotes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's taken out of context quite often.
Mm-hmm.
But, just the common person. Just this is the chant for the common person. Just try.
Mm-hmm. I loved it so much, and when I heard that try line, and that's what happened here. Like, they tried, and guess what? A lot of people died. And this is not the start of the rebellion.
Mm-mm.
Like,
but
they lost on Ferrix. But at the same time, I come away from that hopeful because the seed has been planted.
It's a stepping stone along the way.
It's the first brick.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that what I did?
And you said that
funerary brick was used to smash somebody in the face.
Oh, I know that. If your funerary brick gets to smash fascism, you know.
And Stephen, you said that Luthen gets the best speech. I don't feel a desire to compare, but I will say a strong contender to take that number one spot is Marva.
Yeah.
Because holy crap.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What a social club those daughters of Ferrix.
The daughters of Ferrix.
Mm-hmm. I kind of think they're a little bit more than just like, your weekly bridge club.
Yeah. And I will say this show really got me. This is part of what I enjoy is the fact that the writing in this is so great that they're even toying with people like myself who know the conventions of filmmaking, because when they had Marva die in, I want to say episode 10, maybe, and 9 or 10, or maybe it was 11. I think she actually died in episode 11. I was like, that's weird. They didn't have a final scene with her.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, they wouldn't have a character that prominent played by such, an acclaimed actress and have her die off screen without a final scene. So I was either like, did something happen production wise where they couldn't get her for a final set of scenes, or is this all a ruse and she's actually not dead and it's a big, sort of plan to take down the Empire, which I didn't want, because that felt kind of more in line with traditional Star Wars. And so when I saw that this was the route, that it's a custom to have, a recorded message, and that was the way she was playing, factoring into the ending, I was like, perfect. Phenomenal.
Yeah. And what can you do where she's dead? She's like, I'm dying. I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna say what's in my heart. Oh
God, and how can it be that we haven't mentioned talking about her death, B2 emo.
B2, I was just thinking of that little droid. My God. That little beat up trash can is he's such a great little droid, It's not the goofy, kind of droid activity that they.
The fact that it takes him more energy to lie, and yeah, just so loyal and loves Marva and
worries about Cassian.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets to be the projector.
Mm-hmm.
He gets to play his part too.
Yeah.
In that, it takes you back to like R2D2 showing the little projector of Princess Leia, and then here's little D2 showing the projection of Marva and calling to arms. It's a nice little nod.
We're gonna go to the mid-roll soon, and like there are other characters who are going to have longer conversations about. But like right before we go, I have to mention the character I wanted to strangle the most in this show, and it's an easy one too, and that is Mrs. Karn, Cyril's mother.
Oh my God! Oh
you
no!
are a terrible human being.
It's terrible.
And it adds a lot of it adds a lot of layers into Cyril's character, because there is where you kind of see the obsession he has towards Dedra, because Dedra is pretty much his mom. It's pretty much his mom, and in so many ways. I mean, this is but I don't know. The mom is just meaner somehow manages to be meaner than the fascist lady. I don't know. I mean, it's just. I mean, he's constantly just trying to get you know, approvals from everyone. I mean, the whole thing with his uniform, altering his uniforms to fit better, and all of that, and it comes from his mom. It comes from his mom because he can never satisfy his mom.
Never fall short in any way.
I mean, I can see how you see that he sees his mother and Dedra, but I think also it's different though, because he sees her as someone who sort of gets what he gets, which he does not feel that way about his mom. So it's it's this weird twisted thing where he kind of idolizes her, and he's
he definitely has her on a pedestal.
Yeah. And
his mother would tell him that he's not good enough for her anyway. So
like he's never good enough for his mom.
He's not good. He would never be good enough for the ISB woman. So
like she'll be chewing on his ass, and he'll say, "I got promoted," and all of a sudden she smiles and pouring his cereal in his bowl, and I'm like, "Oh God, I hate you so hard because it's my dad." By the way,
is that Captain Crunch that he was eating? By the way, it looked
like a version of Cocoa Puffs, which I'm very familiar with.
Like.
Yeah,
I want to meet Hanker Hollow. It was just so much mystery there.
Oh my God! Didn't you heard me on the phone? Your side of the conversation, it was hard to miss. I'm like just watching their conversations. It's like
the worst.
It's a nightmare. It's like, let's.
What? But it did wonders. It did wonders for Cyril's character, for us viewers, because in the first episodes you just see this guy that just wants to make his way through the Empire, but he's so incredibly stupid and ambitious, and you kind of don't like him for that, and then you meet his mother. And you're like, oh my goodness, poor guy, poor guy.
Much sympathy, this much.
Well, that's the thing. We keep they do such a great job with the characters of both Cyril and Dedra of bouncing back and forth between them having our loathing and also our sympathy.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Because for a few episodes, we're just seeing Daedra through the, prism of she's a person in the workplace. She's a woman in the workplace who keeps getting stepped on by her male coworkers, and so we're kind of rooting for her to succeed until she gets into that room with Bix.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're
Oh,
like,
boy.
oh no, you're a horrible person.
We're going to come back to Bix, and when we have time to devote time to the character, because she deserves more than just a passing commentary.
Yeah.
But we ought to do the mid-roll. I noticed this comment, and it made me laugh. Sorry, Cassie, that talking about Cassie and Andor is difficult and sometimes triggering. Maybe Cassie in Andor is just the name of the main character. So I'm really sorry, Cassie in Andor is the name of that character, and it is weird for you. Okay, let's move on to the mid-roll. I'm done trolling my friend. I love you,
Cassie,
You're awesome.
Cassie
Cassie Andor.
Okay, so yeah, everyone who's here now, thank you for being here. Could you hit that thumbs up button and subscribe if you haven't? That would be awesome. I would really appreciate it. Thank you, patrons. You guys are rad. Our patrons they're actual dragons. You may not realize this, but part of the process of becoming a patron of Here Be Dragons does involve a metaphysical process by which you do, in fact, become draconic in nature. So thank you to all of our patrons, including our great Wyrms, Ridiculous Ed Tollett and Lord John Bronstein the Wise, as well as our elder dragons, the Cloaked One of the Underworld, Ryan Stavka, the Russian Quartermaster, Reflective Rambling, Arch-Maester Emma, Kate, Mistress of the House of Books, Jared Kozal, Doctor of Dragons, Lady Maura Lee of Starfall, and Lady Rita, the Unbound. Thank you, patrons. We love you guys. If you want to become a patron, links down in the description. You don't really get anything. You just help keep the lights on it. But you do get my undying gratitude. But yeah, everything we make here at Here Be Dragons is always free for everyone. But we do appreciate you helping us pay for the, lighting and streaming software and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, thank you. Coming up next week, next Sunday is December the 4th, and my birthday is December the 5th. So I'm just gonna do whatever I want again. I'm not sure what that is yet, but I'll probably just go live and be like, who wants to come on and make fun of me for getting old?
Will there be cake?
There will be cake. I might try to eat cake without utensils.
Oh, great.
That would be fun. I'll put my camera down where you can see it, and maybe I'll try to eat it with no hands. That sounds like it could be fun, right? So yeah, tune in next week for that. There's a new thing I'm kind of wanting to do every week during the mid-roll, and that is, what are you watching this week? What have you been watching? John, what have you been watching this week? Anything good?
Shoot, what have I been watching? I think I've been kind of all over the place.
I know you did a whole rewatch of Andor as well.
I know that's why I'm slightly confused for a second about what I've actually been watching. Let me.
Well, I've been watching Wednesday. I watched Wednesday. It was great, by the way. I enjoyed it so much, and I intend to start 1899. 1899 this week. So I will.
Saying 1899. I have also watched Wednesday. It was. I don't know if I would say it was great, but it was good.
I mean, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot. I love the fact that Christina Ricci was there.
Yep.
And
I also love that Jenna Ortega, gosh, she killed it. She really did. And she made it her own, but it still felt like a Wednesday you could recognize. It was really good.
Yeah.
She was not, I had some problems with the show. She was not one of them.
Mm-hmm.
The character of Wednesday is actually pretty spectacular in that show.
Yeah.
Nessie, John, you want to add to that?
The two things come to mind. I did start with the first episode of the new season of The Crown, which
Okay.
I enjoyed. So I'm continuing on with that. And then even though it kind of uncharacteristic of me, it was a one shot. So I felt like, let me go ahead and watch it. The Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special I watched, which was both charming and also a bit terrifying, if I'm completely honest.
Okay.
But I had a good time watching it, and the ending got me. It was a heartwarming end to it. But yeah, I think I'll try and be, now that I've done my rewatch of Andor, I'll get back and focus on The Crown and get through that.
I've also watched a little bit of Gilmore Girls because our friends Kate and Laura have started their Gilmore Girls podcast. And I am kind of watching along at the pace that they're releasing episodes. So Gilmore Girls for me.
Yeah.
I'm also judging every single one of you who didn't show up to the Oh Brother Where Art Thou watch party.
I was working, John.
Except for you. You were excused, Nessie.
I'm excused because I was fathering.
Yeah.
Priorities.
When I haven't been working and watching Andor and also the Tales of the Jedi, those were nice little shorts.
I haven't seen that yet.
Little palate cleansers, shall we say. Very nice little palate cleansers. I have been watching Yellowstone. It'll get a grip on you. I'm just saying.
Can I direct you to the Gilmore podcast? I can find that link if you give me a second. But I also will tell you their YouTube channel is just called The Gilmore Way.
The Gilmore Way.
Gilmore Way.
Yeah, definitely hop over there and subscribe. And watch
Kate
each
and
week.
Laura are the hosts, and they've both been guests on the channel here in the past. And they are both extremely knowledgeable about the show and have very smart things to say about the themes and whatnot. So, yeah.
Yeah, they took a road trip this last summer that was like Gilmore themed. So, yeah, they say they're a bit obsessed with it. It's like a bit of an understatement. So, yeah. Healthily obsessed. That's all. Healthily obsessed. But, yeah.
A lot of love for Tales of the Jedi. Anybody have been watching anything else this week?
I'm sure.
Not this week.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll ask you again next week.
I mean, do the Hallmark Christmas movies count?
Sure, why not?
You know, that seems to be what's on at work all the time, which I've got this down to a science now. I've analyzed them every year for the last, 10 years. And they're all basically the same cut and paste.
Yeah.
Thing, and they're very much a very certain way, shall we say. There's not a lot of diversity in it at all. So it's got a script they share amongst it. And it's kind of a running gag with me. So I enjoy watching them and throwing popcorn. So
that's a very, very Hallmark movies are very American.
very
very American. Yeah.
There you go.
Those are never.
When I saw that meme posted, I'm like, this is absolutely 100% correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, you will never see a Hallmark movie in Mexican TV. Never, ever. Because it's not something.
I think I did watch there was one Hallmark movie that I saw last summer that didn't have like the all white cast except for that one black woman who is the best friend of the main heroine. This was like it did have like an African American couple, but it's the only one that I've ever seen. So I had to change my name for the
diversity.
Yeah, they met their diversity quota for the year. I have the name for the boyfriend in all of these films. I call him Sweater Boyfriend. But for this one, I had to like rename him Hoodie Boyfriend.
What a daring departure from the archetype.
It was. I had to applaud.
You're subverting the trope there.
Okay, I just wanted to say before we get back into the discussion that I might not be here next week because I'm having dental work done, and I'm not sure. I'll be eating soft foods for at least a couple days, so I'm not sure if I'll be
I got
back
you.
in
Oh,
working
John, you
order.
know you're a wuss.
It's only
I-
my birthday celebration.
I
Yeah.
know. Well, I'll be in the chat at the very least.
Rolling my
How-
eyes. No, it's all good, man.
However, the next
No.
week, I know for sure I'm not going to be here because I'll be out of town
Me too.
for you all know what. But
Yeah.
so so I hate that I haven't been around as much, but we'll get back into a normal routine after
And
that.
holidays are difficult, right?
Mhm.
Anyway. So we all have our other. We actually have lives.
Yeah.
Where we interact with other people outside of you guys, or one another. So it happens.
Yeah, but like, so John, that's okay if you can't make it, because next week is nothing serious. It literally is just me. Hey, it's my birthday.
Shenanigans.
Come tell me I look old. Even older than I did last year,
Yeah,
Tell me you
birthday
remember me when
shenanigans.
I had brown hair.
I never knew you when you had brown hair.
Yeah, you did. But only for like, I was already graying, but like,
A minute. No, I'm kidding. Yes, I did. I knew you when you had brown hair. More brown in your hair.
yeah. But, and after that, I don't know. We'll find something to talk about. There's always a backlog of stuff.
Maybe we should watch Rogue One.
Do a rewatch
I
of
want to.
Rogue One after
I
Andor.
do.
That would be
I
fun.
do want to.
I mean, I'm personally going to do a rewatch.
Also,
Me too.
I think Wednesday is worth talking about too. The show Wednesday. I watched the whole thing already, and again, I don't think it's perfect, but there are some things the show is doing that I loved a lot.
Mhm.
Well, I know that the week I get back, Stephen, will be the 18th, which is a certain anniversary.
Oh, is it time for our annual Lord of the Rings movie review?
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so that'll be the 18th. So we just need to figure
Our
out
retro review, as much as that pains me, of the Two Towers.
Yeah.
Oh, is it that time again? I
Yep.
always miss those.
Yeah, it's
John,
time for our annual Lord of the Rings movie review.
I'll be working. I think that's my weekend.
Well, it is what it is. Sorry.
Damn it. You always do this to me, John.
I didn't schedule the release date of the movie.
Yeah.
I feel like somehow you had a part of it.
No, look, blame your boss. That's the one who scheduled you.
Oh, I blame her for so many things right now.
Oh, can't handle the load of more. I got you.
She can trust me. I'll the show.
Guilty Undertaker. The short answer is she fantastically. It's not the. I feel like it's not the same character, but it's definitely a character that could have grown up from that character.
Mm-hmm.
You know what though? We should really turn the conversation back to some more Andor and Bix. A character that was there at the beginning that is so keen to giving Andor purpose in the finale too. 'Cause that's what he's there for, to get Bix out. Really?
Yeah, he's not there to see his mom. That's he had his. I think he had his closure with.
Well, no, he does. He does come back for that because he doesn't really know the predicament that Bix is in.
Bix. Yeah, no, he doesn't know. He doesn't know. He just goes to see his mom, and then he finds out that Bix is a prisoner, and then he just, okay, I need to rescue her while being undercover.
Right. Well, I mean, he sniffs out the Imperial, trap pretty quickly. Susses that out, and by still employing some of the friends that he has, which is very dangerous, because somebody has ratted him out before, and more friends have ratted him out. But yes, he does glean that information. They keep him from springing the trap, and I think it was when Brasso's telling him his mom's final words to him,
Mm-hmm.
that gives him some closure,
Yeah.
for her. And those are, kind of like solidifies, for him what he needs to do.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of gives him permission, you know.
Um, I won't make a whole big thing of it, but that conversation, and when we find out, his mother's, message to him, that hit me hard.
I bet it did, John.
Yeah, especially the part, I forget what the exact wording was. She loves you more than anything wrong
mistakes.
Yeah, your
you
mistake.
could ever do. Yeah, and
Like,
and I think we all kind of feel like we have those moments where we've, sort of blown up at people when we shouldn't have, and especially with the situation I'm in now, my mind can't help but wonder to all the sort of bad choices I might have made over the years, and so hearing a line like that made me quite emotional. But and then to take that further, to have Marva projected large and giving her inspiring speech to the town. I've had I feel like I've had two parental tearjerker episodes this year. The other was House of the Dragon.
You haven't watched Arcane then yet.
No, but the episode I'm referring to, of course, is Viserys's long wall,
goodbye.
and so yeah, it's just it's just the way fate works out that I got two episodes of my favorite shows that kind of brought the waterworks in this regard, but yeah, no. I was so pleased with everything they did with Marva's character. I don't need any more sadness about parentage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, let's go back to Bix. Let's go back.
Let's go back to Bix, because Bix, like,
brain melted
when they brought in Dr. Gorgon or whatever his name is, Dr. Gurka, I can't remember.
Dr. Gherkin.
Yeah,
Call him Dr. Pickle.
The way he describes what he is about to play for her, and
he's about to play a song.
Right, like
no. I mean, there's a joke,
right? He made his mixtape for her.
Yeah, there's a joke in the Latin American community about Adria Arjona's dad. He is a singer in Latin America. He's a famous singer, but he's notoriously bad. And his songs are notoriously bad with this I don't know, super horrible writing and the lyrics and so their joke is that they played Arjona's songs.
Okay. Right.
As a torture. Yeah.
But that scene was just terrifying, and that doctor better die a very slow, painful death.
Yeah.
Just that little speech was encapsulates the evilness that is the Empire. It's like, let me sing to you a song of genocide, my dear. We wanted this planet. They didn't like it. We just genocided all the natives, and these are the dying, screaming wails of their children. Enjoy. It's like every bit of that was unconscionably evil.
Yeah. And then again, we see a great piece of acting from Adria, because you don't get to hear what she is hearing. You don't get to do that. Thank God. Yeah, but I don't know. They're just using the power of your own imagination to I don't know, try to figure out what she's listening that is so damaging for her
Horrific.
spirit and her sick. I don't know. It's just great writing and great acting right there and then. And Bix is not she's really not a great I mean a big character in this story. She's just
Right.
up until this point she was just basically Andor's ex-girlfriend. And but in this episode we get to see her truly shine in her acting, and that was wonderful.
Mhm.
It was really awful that we saw her shine in this way, but I don't know, it got, I mean, it fed a lot to the fear of the empire as a
Mhm.
viewer. And
Yeah.
this is when you get to actually believe that the empire is evil.
Very.
Because like I said previously, other Star Wars installments don't really portray that
Mhm.
in an effective way because they are focused on the evil guy, on the villain. And this
I
time,
Like we've seen like a few like scenes with the Empire. They're like shadowing like the torture
mm-hmm,
aspect. You don't really see a lot of hardcore, needles going in people, whatever,
mm-hmm,
that type of thing. This totally, totally in the mind,
mm-hmm,
just totally. We can't hear, like you said, what she's hearing. We just know that it is like completely destroying her psyche.
mm-hmm,
But and like in other scenes that we've seen, that type of torture, and like the person who's being it's going through, it's like, oh well, this is Princess Leia, she's about to undergo like the weird, you know
mm-hmm,
droid with all the things. Oh, but she withstood Moff Tark, which of course she did. She freaking Anakin Skywalker's kid, we find out later. This is just like your normal person. This is just the chick down the street who was selling used parts on the
mm-hmm,
corner,
mm-hmm,
who got caught up in all of this. Maybe she knew the wrong people, and this torture was just so much more real, I guess.
yeah,
just two things. I know it was mentioned in the chat that she didn't break under torture. No, she did.
She
Um,
did.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, she did.
yeah. There was no resisting that
Mm-hmm,
because they found out information from her,
Hmm.
and
And then they
also
kept coming back. Yeah.
there's a great camera shot after I forget where it is, but is something related to the torture where it's a camera motion that is very similar to after Leia's torture begins and
With the door closed.
in the original Star Wars, yeah,
mm-hmm,
Yeah, with the door
which
closing.
I thought was great. So it brings your mind back to that, and it
Mhm.
like it's a different like feeling of it, and it makes you realize the actual horror of what was going on in the original
Mhm.
Star Wars, but because it's portrayed in a different,
In a different
Mhm.
light.
a more fantasy setting, it's not quite as horrific. But now you see,
Right.
no, it actually really is.
Like, I was never worried for Princess Leia. I never
Mhm.
thought she would be. She's gonna be fine. It's fine. She's gonna be fine. Like, I knew when they got a hold of Bix that it wasn't gonna be good. That she was
Yeah.
not gonna survive this.
Mm-hmm.
I just, the feeling of dread. Yeah, like you said, John, whole different flavor.
And
Yeah, Leia
was-
didn't break under torture because she was strong in the
Right?
Force.
Yeah, that's what I said. She
And
was
this
gonna
is
be fine.
normal, ordinary girl. You're
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
on the but going back to Bix as a character, I want to make sure I get her name right. Adria Arjona.
Mhm.
I saw her previously, and she was in the show Good Omens. If
Mhm.
anybody hasn't seen that, check it
Yeah.
out. It's a great
Yeah.
show, and she was fantastic in that.
Mhm.
Which character does she play in that?
She is
Let me.
Never mind.
she's like the descendant of a witch.
Oh yes, the
Yeah.
very good prophecies. Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, Anathema Device. That was her name.
Mm-hmm.
She's great in that, and so I was looking forward to her being in this, and yeah, just
Oh, fun fact: in the Mexican, in the Latin American dubbing, both Diego Luna and Adria do her own voices.
that's good.
Fun
Yeah.
fact.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I
Steven.
learned something funny.
Mm.
I was watching some like behind the scenes
Mhm.
stuff with Diego. He may have been on like Conan O'Brien or Colbert or something. I learned a fun piece of trivia that in Latin America, R2D2 is known as Little Arthur.
Yeah, Arturito.
Arturito, yeah.
Arturito, yeah. It was not. I don't really remember if it was just intended that way. I mean, that they changed the name of the droid as Arturito, or is it just that the people started calling him Arturito because of the similarities of the.
Mm.
I don't exactly know what happened there, but yeah, Arturito is R2D2.
I just love that he's Little Arthur.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Sidetrack, but there you go.
Fun
BB-8
fact.
is B-Botch.
And I also I wanted to mention another moment with her that I really liked, because they set it up with earlier in the episode when Cassian goes to rescue her. It says, then they'll be unhappy or they'll be mad at me or something, like showing that she's really traumatized. And then later when they're on the ship getting ready to go, she says he'll find us, and you think for a second that she's referring to the doctor, that she's still scared, but then she says Cassian will find us, so it shows her coming out of it, and and shows that she is very internally strong, and and that she will. I'm sure she's still going to suffer from some scars from this, but
yeah, she's going to make it.
Yeah.
I mean, she might make it.
I mean,
well, the ship made it.
She will make it. Let's just say that she will make it to become an important part of the rebellion, but she will definitely be lost or dead before.
Well, we don't
Rogue One.
know. There's a lot of trees to hide behind at the Battle of Endor.
Yeah.
So we don't know. No. I got scared when that ship took off and Cassian wasn't on it. I was like, oh shit, do not have this ship get shot down. And so I was very happy when I
was watching it until it, like, please don't shoot it down.
Yeah, please put somebody on that ship that I know lives until A New Hope.
Yeah. I know.
Put the plot armor on that ship.
But then we got that beautiful scene with Luther. And, oh my goodness.
Yeah, Luthen, we haven't really talked a whole lot about.
Yeah, Luthen is a really important part of this. I mean, there were a lot of great one-liners by him, but one of the pieces of dialogue that really, really made an impact in me was when he was talking to Mon Mothma. He was telling her the plans for some kind of I don't remember exactly what they were talking about, but it was something that the rebellion was gonna do that would have a lot of consequences for the ordinary people, that they were going to suffer a lot. And Mon Mothma was trying to convince him not to do it because of the suffering, and he was like, no, we need them to suffer because they won't rise against the empire. Otherwise,
oppression breeds rebellion,
and
that was the Aldani. He knew the outcome, of what would happen about such a high-profile target as Aldani.
And that's the thing. In another Star Wars show, you could see Luthen being painted more as a villain.
Mhm. He's
But
ruthless.
this show is so complex that it allows for us to follow him as a character and have him be extraordinarily interesting.
Mhm.
You know, we get the, you know, something we're a little bit more familiar with in these types of stories, which is it starting off, Luthen comes for Cassian. He wants to take him under his wing. And that sort of follows the trajectory of what we might see in other
Here's
Star
the
Wars stories.
mentor.
But
Yeah.
then very shortly after, when he realizes that actually he's a loose end now and he's out on the run,
He's a
it's
loose
like,
cannon,
oh no, we got to take him out now.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, he's seen his face.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That he's been very careful, you know, not to let, you know, that be a thing. And,
Mhm.
you know, very few people have seen this guy's face.
Mhm.
Yeah. So,
But yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, you know, that speech that he gives to Lonnie is just. I've heard he joked about that he's trying to practice that speech in the shower.
Yeah.
But it's like you know, that's his inner turmoil. That's what he goes through. Just you know, someone who's sort of praying that it's all worth it in the end.
Mhm.
yeah, he knows he's going to have to do despicable things and get his hands dirty and
Yeah.
he knows he's not coming through that without lots of blood on his hands, because
Mhm.
this rebellion is going to be paid in blood,
Yeah.
and it's going to be paid in the blood of innocence, and it's going to be paid in the, you know, the guilty as well as the innocent. Innocent
Mhm.
people are going to suffer.
Already
and
are. Here's the
already
thing.
are and
The
have
argument is that people are already suffering anyway.
Mhm.
slowly.
And,
It's this
and like, it is a terrible thing. Like, I do not agree with Luthen's philosophy.
Mhm.
I'm going to make the Empire make life so bad for everyone that people are forced to rise up. Like,
Mhm.
it seems almost counterintuitive to me, because that's not
But-
what Mon Mothma is doing. Mon Mothma
Mhm.
is funneling money in, but she's also trying to take the more, air quotes, legitimate route by convincing the body politic to
Yeah, I mean,
create
she's
things.
really trying to protect people. That people that
And
I don't know.
ultimately, like, she is the one who will be leading this rebellion.
Yeah.
And that is what she, you know, puts into practice. But also, she doesn't get to that point without the foundation of all of this being laid down. So I don't agree with Luthen either, but this is what gets them to that
Mm,
point all the same.
Yeah, but
Well,
you don't need people like that in your rebellion, because they are the ones that are going to be willing to do to do the dirty stuff. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and
it's there. No rebellion comes out clean.
yes, and people like him is quite easily being it's quite easily prone to fall into the another extreme.
Yeah.
And that's Luthen. That's really Luthen. And but that's what is so interesting about him and so contrasting to Mon Mothma and her own way to win this rebellion. And
Yeah.
those two things are really really
We
important.
see that we see that with Anto Krieger
Mhm.
and the Spellhouse job. We don't really see Spellhouse. We hear talk about it,
Mhm.
and Luthen is perfectly willing to let 50 of his allies die to keep one
Mhm.
Imperial mole in place. And to him, it's very much just it's a spreadsheet in his head.
Mhm.
And it almost has to be because of
Yeah.
the methods he's having to use for the ends he's trying to achieve.
Yeah.
I also love that in the finale we don't see Spellhouse; we just kind of see the ISB
Mhm.
Meeting, the
recapping.
recap. Yeah.
Right. So, and then, but
The-
like,
The
what's his name?
conversation.
What's his name though? Is there in the moment when they're talking about how 50 men just died, and he does a great job of playing it like it doesn't bother him, even though in that moment he's got to know every one of those men is dead, so that
So
he
that
could
he-
live.
Mhm.
Yeah. And well, one of the things that I spoke about Andor in my podcast on Friday,
Mm-hmm.
and my guest made a very interesting point, and that is that, for example, Dedra, who is a woman who is ambitious and who is
Mhm.
really following a path of order and I don't know,
Yeah,
following the rules of the empire to the
100%.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. She is I don't know I don't know how to put it. He has done more evil things than her for the rebellion, and she's the evil one. I mean, she's from the evil guys, but this is because of the nature of their jobs. I mean, but
Mm.
this is very interesting because you have this guy who is fighting for a greater good, but he's willing to do worse things than people within the empire
Yeah,
to
but she
achieve it.
loses a lot of points for the fact that she's a fascist.
Yes,
So
she's a fascist. There's no coming back from that. And
yeah,
there's no justifiable way to defend her. But if you are looking into, I don't know, I mean, she's a lawful good. I mean, she's a lawful evil. I'm sorry, she's a lawful evil, and he is a chaotic evil. I mean,
I
I don't
was
know.
about to come for you, Cecilia.
No, no. I
I,
mean,
I
Don't
want
he's
mess
a
up your D&D references around me.
no, but she's really, really. I mean, she's following rules. She's willing to follow rules
well,
to.
she's
Mhm.
all the worse because what she really cares about is power, climbing the
Yes,
ladder.
yes, yes.
So it's not even about we have to strike down this rebellion because it's wrong. We have to strike down this rebellion because it's my job.
Yes,
And
but I mean,
Mhm.
what I mean is that in this path, the individual actions that she is taking versus the individual actions that Luthen is taking,
Mhm.
that's what I mean. I mean, in the deeper sense of things, of course, she's more evil than him. But in the individual actions, he has done heavier things than her. I don't know if I'm explaining myself.
Yeah, no,
Hmm.
but
that we know of.
That we
yeah,
know of. Yeah,
but it's also like what
She's
I
cool with
found.
torture, you know. She's
Yeah,
cool with all the
yeah.
torture. That's not a
well,
problem for her.
what's really there's a moment that I didn't even really. I mean, I guess I caught it, but I didn't like process it on the first viewing. It's when they've captured one of Creeder's men, and
Mm-hmm.
they found out the information, and they're like, "Well, we can't." Uh, and then Party asked the great Anton Lesser, who was just great.
Mm-hmm.
He says, we can't kill him, we can't let him go, but then she says, well, we could, plant the ship and have him found dead at the scene, and they're like, sure, let's go for that. She just like
She's
casually sentences this
he's
prisoner
a
to
prop.
death. Yeah, he's a
Hmm.
prop,
He's a prop for her.
and
You know.
that right there is like Luthen is willing to sacrifice people, but you also get the sense that he recognizes the gravity of that. He doesn't take it
Yeah,
lightly.
yeah. I
And
mean,
He, back to
Dedra is just following
the
her
conversation
own moral code.
this with Saw.
Hmm.
You know, where he's hashing this whole thing out with him because he had wanted Saw, we haven't talked about yet,
Hmm.
to get in and help this guy, and the realization Saw is like, you're just gonna let him die. You're just
I think this is the best work that Forrest Whitaker has gotten to do as Saw Gerrera, because he was so great. And I like that. It's funny because you see these different layers of the different approaches. Like we're ultimately the rebellion is ultimately going to follow Mothma's,
Yeah, path.
view of and her path of what should be done. And then we've got Luthen, who believes in doing things from his point of view have to be done the dirty way. It just has to be done.
It has to be
But he also knows that everybody has to come together. But then you've got Saw, who's like, I am the only one with clarity of purpose, as he says. And like, God, that is so Saw.
I mean,
And
he's the OG in this, right?
Yeah, I mean,
he's fighting power for his whole life. He's been.
He has not had a weekend off since the Clone Wars. So, like, I get it. But
what a way to put it, John. He hasn't had a weekend off. No pleasure planet for him.
But he is just so blinded by that, and so to him it's his way, and everybody else has to fall in line with him.
Yeah.
So
he's talking about all the different different groups and how they're all so different. And
I want to meet some of those groups. He just threw in there human cultists. I'm like, what's that?
Yeah, that's interesting, I guess. But it's I guess it's Mon Mothma who finds the little threads and the commonality between all these various groups that are so different, to bring them together into a somewhat unified front. Like, we can disagree on everything except our shared mutual hatred of imperial oppression.
Which I think, again, saying like, you have to be listening to what the show has to teach us. Like, there's people who could stand to, listen to the message of, we're fighting for the same thing, maybe put aside some of the more petty grievances and let's actually work together. But
yeah, nobody's listening, John. Nobody's listening.
Nobody's listening.
The titles are not subtle.
But I mentioned Anton Lesser in this. I also wanted to mention, I don't have the actor's name in front of me, but Yularen was in this, who he is the head of the ISB. And we've seen him going back to the Clone Wars, where he was fighting side by side with the Jedi. But now we see all along, he was never really a quote unquote good guy. He just believed in order, and he is lockstep with whatever the Emperor wants.
I'm sure Grand Moff Tarkin is his idol.
All right, I want to bring up what Moni says here, because we are kind of moving towards the end of the podcast, and this is a fun question. And also, feel free to throw out any last-minute ideas about anything about the show. It's a big season with a lot going on. There's plenty to say, but I like Moni's question. They think that Luthen's assistant is Cassian's little sister. What do you guys think?
I do not think that.
I don't either. This is the worst idea I've ever heard, but
I don't think we're ever going to see her. I think she is just.
I just don't think this is the kind of show that makes that connection. Like,
no. The reason I think not, it's because in the very first episode he's looking for her, and she was actually on that planet before him. And the way that she was described is a girl that is being oppressed and that is being used for some other purpose. And maybe she managed to escape, but I don't think this is a woman that is an ally of the rebellion so far. Maybe she will fall into the category of rebel in the future if she ever appears, but not so far, not right now. Right
Yeah,
now, I think of her as
Or maybe if
a
Cassian never
victim.
does find her now that he's in line with joining the fight, maybe she
Hmm.
will not be in line with that
Uh-huh.
and be like, no, we should actually hightail it out of here.
Hmm.
I think that she's just the myth that's the little um butterfly or whatever that he chases during this whole thing. Like he always somehow wishes he could find her, but he's never going to find her. He's never going to
I
make that
actually think that's important. Like maybe he has a chance in season 2 to follow up on his sister,
Hmm.
but in so doing, he would have to turn his back on a rebel mission, and maybe he doesn't ever find her. Um, Moni says, "Dark hair, dark eyes." You're not wrong. She has a deep-seated rooted hatred of the Imperials. You're not wrong. But you could say the exact same thing about Cinta: dark hair, dark eyes,
Hmm.
deep-rooted hatred of the Imperials. And like narratively, I don't think it makes a lot of sense for
Hmm.
Luthen. I
yeah.
mean, heck, who knows though? Who knows what is or isn't? But yeah, Chekhov's sister. I actually think Cassian's
Yeah.
sister is not going to have much impact on the show. It was a thing to motivate him.
Yeah. He was
I think people have gotten used to looking for connections in Star Wars, but I don't think the
Mhm.
show is interested in doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
it's different enough in so many ways, and I think a lot of that is down to just Tony Gilroy not really giving a crap about our Star Wars feelings and just wanting to make his show about resisting fascism and tyranny.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And one more thing, the galaxy is huge.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
at that first he was following her. I don't. He was trying to track her, and he almost did it because he actually ended up in the same planet as her, but she was already gone. But
He
who knows where in the galaxy she is now? I
And
mean,
we don't even know for sure
we
that
don't
that
even
was
know if
even
that's
her.
yeah,
Yeah.
and we don't
Yeah.
even know that. We don't even know that. And the galaxy is so huge that I don't think a show like this would go for the secret sister was there all along. You know,
Yeah.
either she shows up in later seasons
The
or
real
she
sister is
just
the
doesn't.
friend. The real sister is the friends he made along the way.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly,
Yeah.
Tarth.
Maybe Varda is his real sister. You know, she's certainly trying to
No,
kill him.
no, Cassian is not
It's
Palpatine's
like
son. I'm
when
sorry.
people it's like
No,
when
I
people
didn't
were
mean that for real, Cecilia. I meant like
it's
his sister in the rebellion. You know.
it's
Uh-huh.
like when
Yeah, yeah,
people
yeah.
were saying that Kenoi and Kino Loy, they use his DNA to make Snoke. It's like no,
No,
no, no.
no, man,
No,
no.
let that character just. I hope they never bring him up again. Like I
Hmm.
want to leave him standing
In a
on.
desert with Jar Jar
Yeah, I
Binks.
want to see. I want to leave him standing there, overlooking the water. Let that
Somehow Kino returned.
right somehow. Kino survived.
I mean, there
Hmm.
are I definitely see what there are also logical ways that Kino could somehow get himself out of that situation, because you have to figure that for the personnel on there must be some kind of uh, way off of the station, maybe
Bro, jump in the water, wrap your arms around my shoulders. I can carry you.
yeah.
Hmm.
But as a character arc and a story point, I agree with you, Stephen, that it's extraordinarily meaningful that he is sacrificing himself for the others in that moment. And
He is
so
what is it? Burning his what? I forget what Luthen's quote is. It's like I burned my life to make a sunrise that I know I'll never see,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
that idea is all over this show.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's just another one of those really beautiful moments. Okay, so we've got like big characters, but do you have a favorite speech? And is anybody going to knock off Andy Serkis as like the best performance in this show?
Well,
Uh,
both Stellan Skarsgård and
Mhm.
what's the name of the actress that portrays Mon Mothma?
Genevieve O'Reilly.
Genevieve O'Reilly. Those two are really, really close there.
Mhm.
I mean, they were pretty much the three more notable actings in the show. I mean, of course I already talked about Diego, but the nature of Diego's character is different. He may be the protagonist of the show, but he's not the protagonist of the rebellion. Himself. He's more like I don't know, a strong tool for the leader in I don't know, as he was for Kino. Kino was the one who inspired all the people to do that, and Diego just I mean Andor just enabled him. And yeah, so I think that Diego's role is just being an enabler for the leaders to do their purpose on the rebellion, and so his acting needs to be low key, but it doesn't mean that low key is bad. But these three performances by Genevieve Genevieve and Stellan Skarsgård and Andy Serkis are the ones that stand out the most.
Yeah,
Okay.
Hmm.
I agree 100%.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
Argue with you, Cecilia.
Guilty Undertaker agrees with you too.
as
Yeah,
far
and-
as
Yeah.
sorry, no, as far as speeches go, I really am torn between
Hmm.
Mongoose was
between
so good, though.
Luthen and Marva's speech, because Luthen's is like a very self-reflective and talking about his inner turmoil, and it's that kind of, you know, Kate blowing in the dark alleyway. It's like it's very like chilling, and then when he erupts with, what do I sacrifice? Everything. But Marva's was so inspiring,
Mhm.
and like sent chills down my spine that way. And there's so much going on while she's giving the speech, and
Her speech and her is the first break of the rebellion.
yeah.
Quite literally. Hmm.
Now, as for performance, since I went with Stellan for one half of the my indecisiveness
You'll go
about
with
the
Genevieve for
speeches.
the other.
No, I'm actually, even though she was absolutely phenomenal, I gotta go with my man Circus, because he just it's because of what he was able to achieve in
Mhm.
such a short span of time,
Yeah.
compared to most of the other actors had many more episodes, but he just gives this powerhouse performance.
Yeah, 3
That
episodes.
yeah,
Mhm.
so brilliant.
Yeah. I can't argue with it. This show is so full.
I haven't mentioned the score. I kept thinking
Hold
about
on.
the score.
Metchu says, important question for John. What did you think of the score, especially in the finale? Well, John, I'll just leave this one completely to you. I don't keep score, so
This was like great, because I didn't know what to expect from the score. I kind of thought we'd be getting something more in line with Rogue One, which Michael Giacchino was kind of doing Williams, but not Williams with that. This show went in a very different direction,
Mhm.
which I thought was great.
Mhm.
The score was very Blade Runner-esque,
Mhm.
which I loved. And right from the opening moments, the beginning felt like Blade Runner 2049, and then a little bit of Tron Legacy too. And like, just normally, you guys know I'm normally more of like a full-on orchestral, like classical style guy, but this, it had an electronic vibe, and I'm sure there were traditional instruments as well, but just the style was great, and it was just this propulsive sort
There
of
was an
keeping you on
handle.
edge. And
The
but then it had moments of brightness where it just like let out, like during the prison break, where the music is just soaring as they're all chanting one way out, and it was just, this was the best of, like, just as I've been saying, it's the best of like the Star Wars shows, live action. I'll keep it within the live action realm. Like the score was the best of the stores, in my opinion, and completely so different from John Williams. And I think that was good, because it's going for something completely different. So yeah, 2 thumbs way up for the music.
I agree. Like, it's often one of those things that if the music is working as intended, I don't really notice it on the first watch. It's one of those things I will tend to notice on other later watches. But if I don't notice your score on my first watch, often that's a very good thing. It just means I'm so wrapped up, then your music is probably giving me the emotional cues that it works. Anyway, guys, final thoughts, because I've got stuff I got to do. I got to end this thing.
I just want to mention one more thing about the store. That wasn't the comment I was going for. Here we go. I knew that when they played that the opening music over the title for that final episode, I was like, those sound like real instruments. It feels like, because we knew we were getting a funeral, it sounded like a funeral procession, and that's exactly what it was. And talking about the funeral, like, I love how the way that started off, where it's almost like the instruments almost come across as a little weak and starting, and it's just a couple of people. The way that builds and the way people join in, and then when they all stop for a moment and then they start going really quick and the instruments are playing faster, it was just utterly brilliant. So I love the way they used music for that episode. And as far as like final overall thoughts, just I adored this show. It is again, I don't want to be one of those people who tries to like take away from other Star Wars shows. I have loved, the other shows, but this is kind of what I've been waiting for. This is sort of what I thought we were getting with The Mandalorian when we first started seeing previews, before it turned out, and we all found out, that was actually the Baby Yoda show. So I've kind of been waiting for something like this that was a bit more, again, I say this with some trepidation, a bit more mature and dramatic. It knocked my socks off. So
good.
Yeah, that
there's nothing quite like the feeling of putting on there's nothing quite like the feeling of putting on a fresh pair of socks. So you're halfway there already. I do have one final thought, which is just to echo what Danny said, and I'm really glad he did. Andor is how you do a post-credit scene. No big, like, it's a thing we know it's already there. People are having a question, what are they making? And it does. All it is just robots building a thing. But it kind of like, it casts a shadow over all of season 2 of this show as well.
Well, you finally see what they use that park for that they're building on Narkina 5. So,
and that adds a lot of drama to Cassian's character. I mean,
yeah, he was building parks.
And another nerdy music observation. What's interesting is I noticed on my second viewing that the music they used for the end credits of the finale was the prison breakout music, which I find interesting, since it's leading into the post-credit scene of finding out what they were making. So,
yeah, I kind of had a feeling the whole time that's what they were. That's what that factory was. I mean, that prison was doing.
That's the thing. I was okay with it. I didn't need that because there was speculation about that. It was probably they were probably building something for the Death Star, but it's after all the credits. It doesn't hurt anything to have there.
Yeah, that's what I meant by adding layers of drama into Cassian's character. That was exactly what I meant.
Yes, he was building parts for the machine, for the Death Star that eventually killed him, but he also had the last word on that because he got the flaw, the information out that eventually.
Yeah.
By the way, I just have to say, like, one of my favorite little moments from this entire show, since we're going back to talking about the prison, is when they're breaking out and Cassian and Kino go into the room with the intercom and everything. When Cassian points the gun at the two guys and says, "On program!" That was, like, so fulfilling.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I enjoyed that moment very, very much. Yeah. The on program, not gonna lie. I gotta call it quits though. I've drank this much coffee, and I am done with it now.
Yep.
But we love you all. Thanks to everyone who was here to watch with us live. We had a pretty good turnout this week. It's Star Wars. People like Star Wars, so it's. But come back next week where we don't have a topic other than celebrating the fact that I have somehow managed to circumnavigate the sun once again.
Good job, Stephen.
Yep.
Good job.
I will be turning 48 years old. So yeah, just come back and hang out. And I'm probably just going to have some friends on and we're going to BS. Maybe I'll try to figure out how to play some games with people. It could be fun.
Yeah.
But yeah. But yeah, just come back for tomfoolery and shenanigans. I'm not sure in what sort of ratio the two will be, but
whether it's more tomfoolery or shenanigans.
Right.
You can never have too many of both, I don't think.
Yeah. But peace be excellent to each other. And when I say that, what I mean is, like, let's look out for each other. Like, let's be emotionally available. When your friend needs you, listen to them. Being excellent to each other means, even when it's not the easy thing to do. So I love you guys. I really do.
Love you too,
we love you too.
Yeah, but I really do need to cut this off, and I've got to run. And one of my daughters texted me and wants to talk, and so I've got to go do my thing. But yeah, we'll see you all next week. Thanks for stopping by. Cecilia, a pleasure as always.
Thank you.
Thank you,
John,
Cecilia.
Nessie, you guys are, thanks for helping me keep this thing going. And to everybody in the chat right now, you guys are my favorites. To everybody watching this later, you're not as favorite, but like, I still like you. But yeah, until next time, we love you guys. Peace.
Peace.
Bye.
Oh,
wow.
We could just continue on, but no. We'll go ahead.
As we say on the Zoom, finally.
I gotta go too.
That was like a fat finger. You know what? Peace be excellent to each other. We'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.